have to go big because a lot of people go the Catskills.
Yeah, I know, because I usually say Roscoe, or because everybody knows the Roscoe Diner.
But so what area are you?
Sullivan County, yeah, right around Roscoe on a lake, above there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. We are live, and I have my new best friends here. I told them that whether they like it or not, we just, Joy Farrow and Laura Frombach, and they wrote Street Smart Safety for Women, Your Guide to Defensive Living. And I told them as I read this book, I just kept, my mind was flooded, like, oh my gosh, I wonder if they know about, the Boca Raton lady that was murdered from that Best Buy third-party driver service that they hired, and about being safe in your house. And then the next chapter, it was about that. And then the killer across the table was mentioned. So I was just telling them about Rosemary, and told them all about Rosemary. And she's a great friend of our channel, a great friend to us. And we were chatting way before the live, but I'm excited, really excited to have you guys here, because this is like really important information. And you mentioned Dirty John, and that's one of the first podcasts of true crime I listened to after Serial, and my daughter did too. And I have a daughter who's in her early 30s, and she works in Manhattan, lives in Brooklyn. I worry about her all the time, right? But she tells me, don't worry, Mom, I'm fine. But yeah, it's a scary place for women especially, and we have to be street smart. And why don't you introduce yourselves, tell about like what you did before and what came to writing this book, how you came to writing this book.
I am Joy Farrow. I'm a retired deputy sheriff. I was on the street. I started in Pompano Beach as a road patrol officer. And then I ended up working for the Broward Sheriff's Office in South Florida. And 28 years on the street, I saw and handled and investigated everything you could think of, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Day in and day out. And I would tell Laura about it, and, just crime after crime after crime. And it was years later, I was about to retire, and we were kicking around what would be, something we could do along those lines to help women. Mm-hmm. And we both decided to combine our talents, because Laura is, go ahead.
So I am a survivor of childhood domestic abuse and violence, and I'm a former technologist. And as I was growing up, of course I knew our household was violent, but it wasn't until just a few years ago, actually, that I realized that my mother's mental illness was directly tied to domestic violence. And that was a game changer for me. And for Joy and I co-authored the book. And so for me, that's what I wanted to contribute to women, to not only teach women who may not know that they're victims, but also how to recognize the signs of a potential abuser much earlier in the dating relationship.
Right. And I was reading like your dating things, and I have a joke with my daughter because she's single, and she'll go, oh, I'm going on a date, or this, that, the other thing. And I always laugh at my friends. I say, what do you think? What do you think she'll shoot him down for this time? And one time it was something that, Mom, he didn't bring his cat to the vet in 10 years. And I said, okay, so that was, she said, yeah, because then I don't think he cares about the cat's health. And some of my friends were like, she's a little too hard. Like, what if he's saying the cat was healthy? But so I think my daughter is one extreme, because she will just, these people get knocked down. It's just like a game we play now, okay?
I say good for her. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
That's okay. That's all right. Everybody has their criteria.
Right. So, but you list some things, okay? And you do bring about Dirty John. You talk about that, right? He love bombed, but you explain the difference between love bombing and the infatuation that comes at the beginning of a relationship, where somebody is like going out of their way to show that person they're special. So can you explain the differences between love bombing and the infatuation?
Sure. So everybody becomes infatuated. I mean, that's the fun thing about
Right.
a new relationship is, oh my gosh, you just can't get enough of that person, and vice versa, and the chemicals are going, and it's just such a rush and such a great feeling. And so predators take advantage of that, and they love bomb. And the difference between the two is, let's use an example of somebody out on a date. Say you're out on a date with somebody, and the chemicals are flying, you just had the best time. But tomorrow morning you have to get up and you have a big work project at 6:30, or you have a big test at 6:30, and you say, you know what? Oh, I've just had the best time. I hate to break it off, but I have to go. A love bomber will keep after you. Don't go one more. And somebody who's infatuated and, knows the signs of a healthy relationship will say, you know what, I totally understand. You set a boundary, and it doesn't have to be set like that, you set a boundary, but you say, you know what, I have something else I really have to do. I didn't think the night was going to go this well, but I really got to do this. Somebody who will respect you will say, all right, hey, we can do it again. You tell me when.
Right.
Love bombers do not know the meaning of the word no. And, it's like the confetti canyon, the texts, the emails, the gifts, the this, the this. And it is a predator's version of hooking somebody early in the relationship. So when the abuse or the coercive control, the emotional control begins, we're hooked on who that person was at the beginning, and we always say, you know what, I'm waiting for that person to come back.
Right, yeah. And the other thing you say, which is interesting, like if you're on a date, and we're not, there's way more than dating here, so just, but if you're on a date with somebody, and it's early on, and then they're like, okay, well, I've got to go to work, and then they say, no, just have one more drink, or let's just have something, and if you give into that, then if they're the predator, they know that they can wear you down, right? And that's their sign that you're good for the taking, right?
Right.
And now, sometimes, you have to see if the person is joking, or, they really want to be with you. But still, you have to, put a line in the sand anyway, whether you think they're joking or not, you still have to have a little line in the sand so they know she said no.
Right.
And they know that's it. I don't want any more. I'm leaving. Call me tomorrow or not.
Yeah, it's like that song, right? The baby, it's cold outside. I just have to go, right? So that's like that whole thing. No, stay, right? But yeah, so there's a lot of you list a lot of red flags with dating, but you also talk about something else, and this has happened to me. When you're in a shopping mall and someone comes and tries to get your attention and roll down the window. Well, I made that mistake once, and I had my 13-year-old son in the back, and it was a woman, and she kind of leaned in my whole window once I opened it, and I wasn't thinking. I was in, New Jersey. I was at the Garden State Plaza, and I was right in front of Macy's, so I thought, I didn't know what she wanted from me, and she just started talking to me about she needed money, and she said, can you just give me bus fare or something? So I opened my wallet, I opened my wallet, and I gave her, I don't know, it was $10 or $20, and I gave it to her, and I had a really bad feeling. But you talk about not wanting to be rude, not wanting to be impolite, and I do that too. There's times I've been in situations that I didn't feel right about, but I've been the good girl. You don't do that. You don't that's rude. That's not nice. And so, yeah, I found myself, and thankfully nothing happened. She got out, but I still had that horrible feeling. I looked at my son in the back seat, and I just said, you know what she could have done? She could have done so many things. She could have ripped a bracelet off my hand. She could have ripped my necklace off. She could have stabbed me. She could have said, get over, I'm taking the car. I just said that was so stupid. And yet I see a woman, she asked me to roll down the window. I'm going to roll the window down. But that's what you say. Do not roll your window down for anyone.
And I have had it, and the reason we bring it up is because while I was working off duty multiple times, it would happen to me. And it was at one time, I was in the parking lot, off duty in my own car, and it was two young females that came up and surprised me right after I got in the car. It was daylight, knocking on the window, and not in a hurry, but just knocking to, excuse me, and I was surprised because I was putting my purse down, and I looked at the window, and they said, "Can you put the window down?" I said, "What do you want?" So this went back and forth. "Can you put the window down?" "Well, what do you want?" And then they started getting nasty. They were probably in their late 20s, but they never said, "Hey, listen, our car, I have a problem, this guy's..." So there was nothing, and I didn't look like a cop. I was in my own, off-duty wear. But they kept hammering away, and, I finally realized, oh, no. So I said, "Step back, or I'm going to run your feet over. I'm leaving." And they got irritated, and they walked through the parking lot, and then I could see them maneuvering their way through the parking lot to, see who else was out there and they could, go talk to.
Yeah.
But, that's a scam. And a lot of people think that, women are not a threat. Well, women are criminals also.
Right.
But, a lot of times women look at other women and think, "Oh, I'm okay with her. I can open the window and, I can talk." But it's not safe either way. People have cell phones, and you could handle that, through the window or leave. You don't have to always solve somebody's problem.
Right. And even if they couldn't even hear you, if you could open it just at the tiniest crack, if you had to get your voice out, just they'll hear you. But you give yourself permission, and you can even say, because a lot of us too struggle with being nice. "Oh, that looks like a nice woman," or "That looks like, a woman that wouldn't harm me." You can say, "Look, I have a rule. I don't roll my window down for anyone, but what do you need? I can hear you through the window." And then, so you're still trying to be a little polite in case they really do need help or something. And the same thing goes for, you say, someone coming to your door, right? Even in a uniform.
Right.
Because we've heard horror
stories. Knock on the door, look out the window. Just because they knock on your door, back in the day, in the 50s, grandma opened the door, but still, even we were taught when we were young, don't open the door, look out the window.
There was a recent case just last week where somebody was dressed up as a utility worker.
Oh, yes.
They
Yes.
They let them in. The guy was in a wheelchair. And they killed both of them?
Just that they killed one and, attacked the wife. But,
Right.
What a horrible story, and it's not the first time.
Yeah, and I know we talked about, and I've covered here on the show, that, I'll recap it, in Boca Raton, there was a woman that was waiting for a delivery of a washer and a dryer, and she bought them from Best Buy. So, the delivery people came, and they delivered the machines, and then one of them told the other one, "Look, I'm going to go back in. There was some excuse he made to go back in the house, and when he went back in the house, he killed the woman."
Right.
And then they found out it was a third-party delivery service.
Yep.
Right.
And so how would someone protect themselves from a delivery? What should someone do now?
What's a good thing to do is you can call your friend and, whoever it is, whether, male, female, it doesn't matter as long as you're not alone. Or, if they can't come over, you can be on the phone talking to them while somebody's here so they know that it sounds like you're coming over. So, "Oh, okay, all right, well, yeah, let me know the delivery people are here right now, you coming over?" So that they have no idea that you're next door, that you're never coming over, but at least it's that connection. And, if you do have pepper spray or, something where, you're not going to have anybody at your house, but maybe just in case, if you needed to, spray somebody and get out of the house. You want to keep your cell phone near you.
Right.
The other thing that people actually don't think about that's a really good, inexpensive defensive tool is hornet spray.
Hornet spray.
So, $5 can, it'll go 30 feet, you spray it in their face. If you're having somebody come over, as Joy said, you have a friend, you have somebody on the phone, but as a last resort, you can have some type of defensive tool, and hornet spray is fairly innocuous that many people don't think is actually a weapon.
Right, and then bear spray as well, right? Bear spray,
Wow.
peppers,
Yeah.
all of that, but just being prepared. But you also talk about the fight, flight, what is it? Fight, flight, what is it? Fight, flight, which one?
Freeze and fawn.
Fawning. Fawning is the one that you say a lot of people don't talk about, right? Can you explain what fawning is?
So fawning is when it's a trauma response, like flight, freeze. It is a trauma response, but it's specific to women because we are taught to be so polite and so nice. So when we are under threat, we think that by being the nicest person we can be, by fawning, that they will say, oh, this is a nice person, I'm not going to attack her because she's so nice. So we start really capitulating to whatever it is they ask, not really saying, don't hurt me, but our whole behavior exaggerates how polite and how nice we are, hoping that they will go someplace else. And that is a trauma response. And then oftentimes when women have that response, and I can tell you myself, I have, I'm like later, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Because it is a trauma response. It is a fear response. And, we think that we can overcome a predator just by being super nice.
Right. And then, speaking of friends, we have a Zoom that runs for the channel. So like after we're off the air, we have people that are in the Zoom and they can check in and out or just, go on mute. And we always say it's like a safety precaution because some women live alone and they'll go, look, I'll just put the Zoom on. If anybody comes in, they'll see that all these people on Zoom are watching them. And we say,
right.
we're like
It's
like a little security aid. So like if I'm shopping and when pre-COVID, when the stores used to be open really super late, and sometimes I was coming out of a Walmart at like 1 a.m., I'd have my friends on the Zoom and I'm like, you guys know, because the first thing I knew, I'd be like, okay, look, they all have you. Okay, you want to still do this? Because they've all got you. They know where I am. And so you're going to be caught immediately. So we laugh about that, but we say it's a security thing. And it does make some of the women feel safe because if they're living alone and they can say, okay, well, I can have the Zoom on if anything happens. Because you do tend to, I don't know, I surprised myself. I would never think that I would freeze. But someone called a SWAT to my house after I got off the air one night, okay? And they said they used an automated voice to the New York State Police, and they said they were my husband, and they said that he killed me and our children, and he was here at the house, and he was going to shoot the officers on site. Well, an entire SWAT team from the New York State Police came here, and I didn't know. Okay, I got off. I went into the family room. I heard this banging at the door. I screamed up to my husband. He came down. I heard them in the other room, and then I was like, what is going on? I couldn't even dial 911. I thought it was a home invasion, okay? But I couldn't even get my thoughts together to call 911. And I remember being in the hallway, and when the officers came in with my husband, they were like, they had him pressed against him, so I didn't see the police thing, and there was somebody in front. And I heard my husband say, honey, there's something. And my husband always told me, like, he has all these things, like, he always prepares, like, if something happens, like, if he went somewhere, just take the car, go. He goes, don't worry about me, I'll find my way out. So when I saw him say something like, honey, and I thought they were home invaders, and I literally fell to my knees in the hallway and I said, you can have anything. I will give you the bank accounts. I will give you anything you want. Just please leave us alone. And the police are on their way. And the guy says, honey, we are the police.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And I have PTSD from that. And I'm telling you, but I scared myself that I could not, like, process my thoughts. I always thought I would know exactly what I was going to do, and I didn't, and it scared me terribly.
No, that is just horrible, and I feel terrible that, you even
Yeah.
went through that. I mean, it's so traumatic. But, you just don't know, even in your head, you prepare for things out on the street, but, you don't think something like that is going to happen. And, it does take a lot of yourself and your whole
Yeah.
fortitude to keep it together. And, what should I do now, and
Right,
know,
yeah, getting it
it's
together. So,
good.
yeah. So you
Yeah.
say like the phones have SOS, so that it's just like one
Right.
button, or text 911. But sometimes, like, yeah, it's scary. I'm telling you, like, it's just scary. You just can't even. You're trying to get all these thoughts together, and your mind is. I have ADD, and my mind, it's like all over the place, and I just have to calm down. And I wonder if there's some way to kind of maybe train ourselves a little bit for that, or like try to understand we may not react in a situation the way we think we're going to react, because I would never have thought that I would freeze like that.
As a PTSD survivor myself, I think one of the things about trauma, particularly for women, is that when we are surprised by our own response, it's immediately followed by a sense of shame. I thought I would be stronger. I thought I would do this. I thought I would do that. And the truth of the matter is, until we are faced with a sudden situation, a threatening situation, is none of us know how we're going to react. And so I think it's so important for us to be kind to ourselves, for us to give ourselves a break. I mean, who in the world would think that you would get swatted,
Right.
that the SWAT team would show up at your house? I mean, and I never thought, that I would be attacked. And so, I lived with that for years. I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And I think it's so important for us as trauma survivors to give ourselves some space and say, you know what? I did the best I could under that circumstances, and I came out of it. And, it's just that important, particularly for women.
Right. And then there's other things you say about keeping safe. Like, there are women that just are so gregarious and talk to everybody, but they may be in a grocery line and blurt out that they're home alone, either because their family's out of town, or that they live alone, and there's like too much information that other people who are not so nice could be listening to, that put a target on their back, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you describe
Now,
some of those?
I am one
Yeah.
that when I'm out shopping, people start chatting with me.
Right.
So, I do chat back, but, I am cautious to, what I am going to say, or why are they, are they too close to me? So that makes me a little more aware sometimes. Where's my bag? I'll look for my bag because they started talking to me. I'll make sure my bag is in front of me, or,
Right.
Why are they talking to me? Are they distracting me? Are they with somebody else? They start talking about my groceries. Oh, what are you getting? I have the strangest people start talking to me wherever I am. So, it's always something I'm thinking about. And of course, when I'm walking to my car, those are things, even though I was just talking to this person, I don't want them following me to my car.
Right. Yeah.
So those are things that I'm thinking about, or maybe not walking right to my car, or waiting till they go a different direction, or pretending I am meeting up with somebody else, or I'm on the phone. I gotta go right now. I'm on the phone. Something that, if you're seeing somebody hanging on a little more than a normal person would,
Right.
those are signs.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And what are like other things that you have about not telling anybody where you are, but also not answering the door, not rolling down your window, not don't give out too much information about. That's like really important. And I think we had a girl on the show the other night, and she was going out on a date, okay, after being in a relationship. She's in her 40s, early 40s. And she's very talkative and very nice. And she told her Uber driver, I said, tell me you told the Uber driver all about like what you just got out of this other relationship and now you're going to meet this other guy that you met on this, this dating site. Yes. And I said, you got to be so careful because, he could have been a really nice guy that was interested, but he could be using all that. And now he's got this information. And then she, instead of meeting this first date in a public place, she met him at his house and she got an eerie feeling. And she walked out of there and she said at first he was like telling her to stay. And she's like, no, I'm calling that same Uber driver back. Because even the Uber driver said, look, you're meeting this guy at his place. And if something happens, and he gave her the number and he didn't even charge her for the ride back. But I said, you have to be so careful because you know those people that are just oversharers.
Right.
And it's, I said, it's really scary because, you don't want to be a statistic there.
Well, and that tends to happen when, you're at the bar and you want to meet somebody. So, how much do I share, or you're at a hotel, how much do I share? When do I stop sharing? Oh, hey, you want to come up? So you have to kind of gauge, what type of situation are you going to be in here? Who's going to know that I left the bar with this person? Those are things that you have to think of today that, maybe 40 years ago, people really didn't think about. But, there are just too many predators out there and they're too conniving today.
And what predators do is exactly that. They gain intel. They gain information, which is how they profile their victim, They have a lot of information on you. They know where you live. They know, you're by yourself, you're at a hotel, you're traveling on business, whatever your situation is. They gather information just like the police do when they're questioning a suspect. That's how they profile their victims.
Right. And you talk about, there's 3 different situations you talk about in one case. And there's a 13-year-old girl who's picked up by a guy that says, like, do you need a ride? And this is happening, I imagine it was in the 70s.
That was me.
Oh, that was you in there. I was going to say, that was you?
Yeah, that was me. I was told, don't get in the car with strangers, and I was living in New York, and I was walking home, and it was hot, and young guy pulled up alongside me, and I thought, okay.
You said he was cute.
Yeah, no. College-looking little, obviously older than me, but yeah, I thought, oh, okay, hey, I'll give you a ride, talk me into it. Okay. But as soon as I got in there, it was just the weirdest thing. He didn't talk to me, the door closed, he stepped on the gas, and it was just like, really, I felt like I was in a movie. I was like, oh, going too fast, this is weird. And, everything just sort of flashed in front of me real fast.
Didn't he also kind of laugh and say you should never get in a car with a stranger?
Yes. And that really took me by surprise. Who's going to say that?
Right, yeah.
And, I was lucky enough to live in an area where people would be outside, or, houses were rural area, pretty close together. And I leaned outside. I was actually thinking of just opening the door and just jumping out. But I leaned out, and I saw a guy out there doing his lawn, and I just yelled, hey, Dad, stop the car. And the guy turned around and he looked, and then, he pulled in a hurry, and, I flew out, and he sped away, and that wasn't my dad. It was, just the neighbor who was, just surprised to see me. But I was sweating, and that is the only time that I ever did that, and I didn't even want to tell anybody because it was that stupid.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And I thank goodness nothing happened to you. But then you talk about somebody we know that approached victims while looking helpless, either with a cast or crutches, and that is Ted Bundy. And yeah, so you would think, okay, well, this guy with this cast on his arm wants me to help with his sailboat. Okay, yeah, I mean, he's got a cat, and he's good looking, right? Ted Bundy was good looking, and oh wow, this guy wants me to help. And the woman was at a beach, but she never seen again, right? And then the other woman got away from him, luckily,
Right.
right?
Out of college, he needed help. Once his arm was in a cast, but he always looked out of place, but nobody really thought about it at the time. He, cast, the clothes didn't match the beach. But meanwhile, out of thousands of people at the beach, he's asking a small build woman. So he could have asked, let me get these two guys, but no. And people just really, back then just didn't think about that until he persuaded her enough, because he was nice. So he didn't threaten her. He just persuaded her because he was good looking and, hey, you want to be on my boat and, all this. But putting it together with his arm in a cast just kind of went out the window, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And, he used many different ruses, crutches, and that was one of the victims that he met at a college. And he used the crutches, and she got to his car, said the car didn't work. But she was thinking along the way, walking to the car, that the car was a little bit of a distance away for somebody with crutches. So where's the car? Oh, it's a little bit of a distance. Until she finally got there, and she was in the driver's seat, and he's in the back. And, he said, well, if you look under the steering wheel, and I get chills just thinking about it. And she got the weirdest feeling, I got to get out of here. And she left him, and she lived. She was one of the ones that, lived without being attacked. But, these are ruses that they use today. People use all sorts of things today.
Yeah, and it's scary, Adam, but it's like, I think the biggest thing that hits for me is just always wanting to be nice and always being brought up that way, that you're nice, that sometimes keeps you in uncomfortable situations because you don't want to, you say something to someone, then find out, because one time this woman was hounding me for money in a Florida mall. It was I met George Hamilton in the mall, so it was a very upscale mall, okay? But she was around and she kept asking me for money, and something just felt off, okay? But I still felt terrible because I'm like, wait, she's telling me that I can go buy her groceries. Like, she had all these different scenarios for what I could do. And I just thought, something feels really off with this. Like I'm trying to think, like, well, what can she do if I buy her groceries? She could return them. She could sell. Like, where's this? You're trying to think, like, what's the scam? Where is it? And yet I was seeing her all the time there. And then I will tell you that I felt terrible. She was in a wheelchair, and I thought, okay, is she pretending to be in a wheelchair? And then I saw, like, she was an amputee. So then I still, even though it didn't feel right, I started saying, come on, is a woman like this going to be doing this kind of stuff? And so that I think it puts us in that predicament where, yeah, we can be taken in, and by that, if they look helpless enough or, destitute enough, that we think like they would never be up to no good, right?
And a lot of times what people don't think of is they may have been doing this their whole life. So they go, oh, look, he's like an old guy. What, he's 70? Oh, he couldn't. You don't know that he wasn't in prison.
Right.
How many times was he arrested? You don't know. He's wearing a shirt and pants, and, he's asking you for money. You have no idea that this wasn't a life of crime for anyone, male, female, or even young. So that's also where people get blindsided. We had a friend that was attacked in a bank parking lot. Broad daylight, just came out of the bank, and a young guy came up and said, excuse me, miss. She was just kind of caught off guard, and knocked her down, grabbed her purse. She was just so surprised by the whole, just because he was polite.
Right.
And he was nice, so he didn't, maybe he was new at it, but he, didn't attack her first. So, the whole excuse me, miss thing, and that's why I say, when somebody's going to stop you in your tracks, they're asking, they want something from you. Usually if somebody knows you, they'll yell out, "Hi, Carolyn, hi,
Right.
Joy," something from a distance, but not, "Excuse me, miss." As soon as you hear that, especially from a male, they want something.
The other thing we always say too is that women are conditioned to be so nice that we think we're the world's Swiss Army knife. We think if somebody wants something, I can fix it. You have a problem, I can solve it. And, that's how predators get women from one location to the other, as we just talked about with Ted Bundy. Can you come over here and help me with this? And so, we do want to be helpful, but it's not our responsibility. And, everybody carries a cell phone these days. You know what? I'll call 911 for you. We can be helpful in that way without putting ourselves at risk or in harm's way.
Right. Yeah. Important to remember. And I think it's so key. We're always wanting to be so polite and so helpful and afraid of, telling off the wrong person,
Right.
You don't want to be that person. Like, what if I just said, "Oh, leave me alone," and be really rude to this woman? Like, I still, this is years later, and I still keep second guessing, like, what did she want? Or I just, some validation that's, "Oh, no, I know that lady. She was scamming people." Like, you just want some validation.
Right.
And because there's all kinds of scams. Like, people have come up to me if I'm checking out at Walmart. I remember I was trying to tell Kevin, one of my moderators, what exactly happened. I was checking out and they said, "Wait, are you going to pay cash for that or something? Let me pay with my debit card or something." I'm trying to remember what it was, and it was like so weird. And I even questioned it. I said, like, "Wait a minute, why would you, because you need to get gas, why can't you just use your debit card to get gas?" It was some kind of weird thing, and it was just so caught off guard, like I couldn't figure out this scam right there, but I said there had to be some scam to this. Why is this guy going to say he's going to pay for my groceries and I can give him the cash, and he's even going to pay, my groceries are $120 and he just wants $100 cash from me, so
Either it's a stolen card, it's a fraudulent card, and he seems like he's doing the right thing, and meanwhile, he's getting paid for it.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. A stolen card, yeah, okay. So, what does somebody say at that time? Because they always make it sound like they have, like to buy the baby's milk or something. I need this, I can't, and they just get you like off guard like that, and you're trying to put two and two together and saying like, where's the scam here? Like what do I do, or what do I say? Like, why would this guy be approaching me like this?
I've had when I was off duty, and a lot of times I'd be approached. Even now, I get approached at gas pumps. And back when I was working, I was off duty, and for some odd reason, there would always be a truck of somebody selling speakers, something out of a truck. "Hey, miss, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm not, going to finish delivering this." Now, to you, it sounds like a great deal. "Oh, speakers? Yeah, they're brand new. They're in the box." You have to say to yourself, let's see now, I'm at the gas pumps here. This guy's got, well, look here, look. Do you want to go that route? No, you don't. And it's happened to me many times. And, these are just different types of scams that you don't want to go anywhere near. I found a wallet, they want to reel you in for that at the bank. Nobody is out there to do you any favors or, hold your hand and help you get money or give you free things out on the street. It's a problem. They're looking to get something out of you, and those are things that you have to, keep in the back of your mind. There are no free gifts out there. And even something to be aware of is you hear all the time people want to sell things on, like social media, the marketplace, and I'll meet you out,
Right.
so-and-so place. Oh, you don't go by yourself.
No.
And how many times have you heard, well, they look like a nice person, or you had a, quick little chat. You don't know them, and
Right.
you don't know if this is real. So even somebody brought somebody with them and still had a situation where somebody was attacked because, they jumped them and they wanted the money.
Yeah, right. And don't ever have them come to your house. Don't ever, if you have something for sale, I mean, if it's a piano or something and you need people to move it, I mean, you've got to be really diligent on that and have a lot of people with you that if you're having somebody at your house. But if you're just selling like a high chair or something or some car seat, don't have them come to your house. And the other thing is, if you are going to buy like say you're making a car deal off of Marketplace, right?
Right.
And so you're going with several $1,000s in cash. Really have people with you, and don't be flashing that cash and make it's really difficult because
Or
there's
meet
people
at a
that's been killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or meet like people do for a child custody exchange. Meet at the police department. Meet somewhere out in the open. Meet in front of a gas station where that there are a lot of people
Yeah.
going to be around all the time. Not in the back of the parking lot. Meet me down there. No, you want to be right where everybody's going to be by the door.
Right. Yeah. Because
You know.
there was, I don't know if it was in Florida, there was a murder somebody was buying a motorcycle. And when the guy went with the cash then he was killed, there was no motorcycle. They just got the guy and they knew he had the cash on him and that's it. So it's a dangerous situation. And then there's been, advertisements for baby clothes or baby items, and a few people have taken, killed the mothers and tried to cut the babies out. Horrible. But they've come from that, like a marketplace or a Craigslist.
Where they started to befriend them.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, they're friends, and, you end up at the house, and then bad things happen because, they went alone, and not, still not a good situation, especially if you're pregnant.
Right.
So
Yeah, you
don't
got to
wanna
be careful.
Put yourself in those.
No.
Right.
And you could think, oh, wow, well, this lady wants to give, all this nursery stuff, and she had it for a granddaughter, and then they moved, like, they'll tell you some, like, tremendous story that, oh, it's too good to pass up, and, oh, but you better hurry, because if they give you a sense of urgency and all that stuff, there's all those red flags. But the other thing you talk about, which is really interesting, is about loans, and about being pressured, either if you're buying a car to go over what you should be, and then getting trapped into something just because you feel so pressured. Can you explain about that, how people get taken advantage of there?
So we talk about how women in particular are persuaded. So influence, persuasion, manipulation, and then coercion. So the more women say no, we are taught, acclimated really, to always be acquiescent, to always say yes. So society doesn't like for women to say no. So the more we say no, the more pressure is applied to us. And so in our book, we talk about a woman, Diane, that we know. And she went to buy a car. She had her budget. She knew the car she wanted. She had her trade-in. She had it all worked out. And she came back and she was almost in tears. And she had this gorgeous car. And I said, oh my gosh, Diane, that's a great car. She said, I hate it. And I said, well, you just bought it. Why do you hate it? The salesperson applied so much pressure to her. Your bill is only going to go up by this much. You can all have all these features. She was never going to use all these features. And what she didn't think about when she was going through the process was how much that loan was going to cost her over 5 years. And it was going to be thousands of dollars. And so how often are any of us caught up in a car negotiation, a big ticket item that we don't negotiate all the time, that we allow ourselves to be talked into something. It's only going to be a couple dollars a day. It's only going to be this. It's only going to be that. And as soon as you hear it's only going to be, you know that you're in trouble because the other person wants something from you. So, it starts with influence, as I said, then it goes to persuasion, they try and talk you into it. And then manipulation comes in. And with manipulation, it always involves lies. So that's always a form of deceit, because if you knew what they really wanted, you wouldn't agree to it. And then finally, especially where women are concerned, coercion. You do what I say or else. And, I think that as women become stronger and as we resist those efforts at persuading us to do things that are not in our own best interest, the easier it will be for other women to do that. That's one of the reasons we talk about this, is to influence other women to stand strong. If you make a decision and you say no, stand strong. Because when men say no, that's the end of it, isn't it? Oh, he said no. There's no further negotiation. But when women say no, that's the beginning of the persuasion process.
Right. And I think, that's really important, because women just buying a car, they just assume that we don't know what we're doing. And I know when I went in to buy my van years ago, the first one the minute I walked in, they were like looking at me, and then when I told them, wait, I looked up everything in Edmonds, this is the one I want, this is what I'm going to, and then they were like, oh, okay. This one's not going to, budge on this. But yeah, if they sense a little bit that you don't know something, well, they'll be on you like flies on honey, right? So,
and there's along the lines of that, there is no reason that you can't say, you know what, I'm not interested today.
Mm-hmm.
And get up and leave, whatever it is. I was going to buy a car, and you know what? I'll come back.
Right, yeah.
There will always be a car, and you will always get a deal. But, the minute that they keep pushing and they're irritated that you're not getting this because, that's the best we can do. But maybe that's over your budget, and you didn't want to go that route.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? You say, okay. I'm not okay to them, okay to yourself, and you're up and out of there.
Right.
And you'll see how fast they leave the office to chase you down for a better deal. And then that's up to you whether you're going to do it that day or not.
Yeah, don't be afraid to walk away. I always say, do the walk away. Don't worry about it. Don't be afraid. Then 9 times out of 10, they're coming after you, right? And when you watch how low they'll go, right, right after they've told you this is their bottom line, and then it keeps getting reduced every time you walk away. Well, I'm going to take a killing on this, right? Oh, the manager's going to kill me on this one.
Right.
But so yeah, I mean, it's but again,
and that's
it's
money
like
in your pocket.
Right.
Where does that money belong? That money belongs in your pocket.
Right. And that happens with a lot of different things. So whenever you feel the pressure and you go, I don't like this, that's a good sign. So like we say, that's your intuition doing all it can to tell you, leave. You're done. Today's not the day. You're feeling funny. Be over with it. Whether it's a date or something you're gonna buy, you're not getting a good feeling. I'm done.
yeah. And where once, and it's surprising because I'm usually pretty skeptical. I'm from New Jersey, New York. I always say I'm born a skeptic, right? And we went. It was with my 13-year-old son again. It was a bad year for me because I lost both of my parents within that year, and I think that's the reason. Maybe I wasn't on the top of my game. I had all this grief. Because normally when I say, like, I went by this kiosk in the mall, right? And the guy said, come here, let me do your nails with this scrub. And that you're like, wow, how are my nails shining like that? That's all you did is use this, like, buffer thing on them? That's crazy. I'm showing my 13-year-old, I'm like, this is nuts. Look at this. All he did was buff them with that thing. And then he's like, he had some sugar scrub or something. And I know because, like I said, I'm a born skeptic. So I'm like, this is like, there's some gimmick on this. It's not going to work when you get it home. Like, let's just go. So I said, okay, well, my son, we've got to get to this other store. Thank you. And let's go. He wouldn't stop. And I ended up spending like $40 on this stupid scrub and this buffer. And when I got home, I said, Carolyn, what is wrong with you? Like, you would never do anything like this. Like, this is crazy. Like, I couldn't get away from that guy. Everything I was like, no, I really got to go because his store's going to close. And he just kept going on and on and on. I almost just like a kid, like, okay, I'll buy you the candy, right? That's what it was like. And I'm like, I'm giving him my money to shut him up. I mean, it was, and I think about it, I'm just so disappointed that I did that.
I had that a lot.
Well, predators have that sense of vulnerability in people. They know by your body language, they know, and predator can be a salesperson as well. They know by your body language, maybe, you did just lose somebody. Maybe, you just broke up with somebody, maybe whatever. You have a situation and they can see you coming a mile away and they say, there's somebody vulnerable.
And what do they do? 'Cause everybody's had it a million times in the mall. I'm a big shopper at the malls.
Yeah.
Is they use the sweet talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you look so pretty. Oh, your skin looks great. You're like, oh, okay, so now, you're feeling really good. So now they're trying to really, you know what I have for you? Oh, you look really pretty. Come here, let me just show you this for 2 seconds. No, thanks, I'm good. Oh, but so a couple more pretty lines there and they get you.
Yeah.
You can't, you're like, well, he did say I was pretty and I have nice skin. And you're right, by the time you're done with it, they're looking for the $200 cream there in the back.
Right, yeah, and that's right now, like, what I learned from that is, like, I see those guys, I can just go like this, oh no, I've got to go, I'm late, I don't even go, like, they just have this thing, so it was a $40 lesson there that, I don't ever do that again, but I was just so disappointed in myself, like, because I'm not that person, like, I've been at the stores when they're, like, showing something, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, come on, everybody here is going to say, well, that's not going to work, or that knife is not going to work after this, and try that. And I looked at everybody, and everybody was going, oh my gosh, I want that. And I thought, am I the only skeptic here? Like, because I really did feel like that one time during this demonstration. So I'm so upset that I got taken in by that. But then you talk about, like, multi-level marketing scams, right? Like LuLaRoe, and It Works, and I always said It Works. That was like the craziest thing. Those wraps that they said, all it is you could do it with Saran wrap, is the same thing,
Right.
But they had to meet these quotas, and you have your upline and your downline. And yes, there are people that make money on that. There are people that they push out there that have all these things these people are looking for. But there's a tremendous risk too, and there's quotas and all this stuff that's got to be met, and they don't really present that, and these people invest a lot of money, and not many of them make it in that, right? So you do talk about that, and I know I think there is a documentary even about LuLaRoe, right? Or yeah.
And sometimes, like the Ponzi schemes, sometimes, unfortunately, and what fuels the Ponzi schemes are friends of friends of friends. Now, are they bad people? No. But they're caught up in it. So now, because they're close to you, they're like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. Now they're not trying to do a bad thing, even though you're friends with them. But, whatever, they got caught up in it. So they want to tell you, oh my God, listen, this is great. You've got to invest in this. And, you have to say to yourself, whatever it is, and no matter whether it's, close friend, family, somebody, you have to say whether that's the money that you can spend and you can part with and you can lose, because that's somebody else's business. So, you have to know when to, I can't put that money out. We're doing something else. But, thanks for the information.
Right.
And that's how people, unfortunately, get caught up in it.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like, when our friends do get caught up in that, and you might get a message on Facebook like, hey, Carolyn, I just want to talk to you for about 20 minutes and tell you
Right.
about this new thing that I'm, and let you know right away where this is going, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, and then you think, okay, well, that's my friend, but what do I tell them, how do I let them down on this, that I'm not looking to take on anything else? And then,
Right.
because if you get involved in that conversation, no matter what you say, there's going to be something else. If you say, look, I'm not looking to make you don't have to make any money. Oh, then it's not going to be any more work for you. There's always going to be an answer, right? To what? So yeah, it's just best to
And
let
the
them know.
answer is no, like anything else, no, sorry, I can't. And that's it, there gets to be the point where, use it in relationships, use it at work, use it all over. It is no, I can't do it. And that's it. You don't need any more. Nobody needs any other personal information. You want to share it, but you don't have to.
Right,
No.
right. And so there's a lot of scams too now, which, and I think, I have a moderator that always says to me, Carolyn, is this email real? Because they're getting better and better, right? So they're
Yes.
getting, like, it used to be, they would pretend they were PayPal, but their address would be kicker. Now they can get it where it's like looking like the real PayPal address. Like I get this thing from RoundCube, and I'm telling you, I'm pretty savvy, and I look at this, and it in every way looks like this is coming from RoundCube. And if I don't do something, my whole mail is going to be gone, my email. And so they come with some like crazy thing, and I can see somebody that's not tech savvy, somebody, really being taken for that. And all they have to do is just click that little link. And even if they're saying, I'm just going to click it, once they do that, they could be enough that they've gotten control of things. And you've heard even people on YouTube, like a creator who had a very big channel, they took control of her channel. She did something that she thought was a legit sponsor. And it had her sign a contract. And when she clicked on something, it literally gave them ownership of her channel.
Right.
And she's like, I can't believe I did this. I worked so hard on that channel. It had all these subscribers, and it's gone now. She goes, all my videos, years of my work is gone. And it's hard to, I hope that, I know she was going back and forth. It's very hard to get in touch with YouTube and stuff. And that's another thing. Like you talk about social media and what can happen on social media with this extortion. And that's another thing you hear kids all the time. And I just told my teenagers, I said, first of all, you don't send any pictures through. But if it ever happened and somebody ever said to you, if you don't do X, Y, Z, I am going to flood everybody with your, pictures and this and that. And you kids take their own lives over that. Young people take their own lives over that. It's terrible, but they think it's true. And the funny thing is, I have a Mommy Ramblings email, Mommy Ramblings, okay? And I get these letters, these emails, and they say, I saw what you were doing on your computer, and I have all those pics of you. And Mommy Ram, okay? So now, I'm going to tell you, because I'm in a good mood today, if you wire, X amount of dollars here, but there are people that get that like, oh my gosh, and I think there needs to be more awareness because between seniors and young people, they can really think this stuff is legit, for real.
Right.
It is so easy to even change characters within the email, an I for a 1 or an ampersand for an A or whatever. And if you just glance at it, and as you said, even if you examine it, it seems to be legit. But, now even with AI, the phone calls, AI can mimic somebody's voice, and they call somebody and say, hey, we have, whoever, your relative, your spouse, your friend, and if you don't send this, then we're going to,
Right.
some bad stuff's going to happen. So it is incumbent upon us, and again, the most vulnerable are the ones who are going to be affected the most, the elderly, whose phones are their lifelines. I mean, they're important to all of us, but the elderly, their phones are their lifelines. Oftentimes they're home by themselves. or children who are home by themselves.
Teens.
Games, you know, they can come in through the games and start the chats in the games. We were over at a friend's house, and their 13-year-old was playing a game, and I said, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And he said, "Yeah, I've got, you know, a bunch of friends all over the world I play with." And I said, "Have you ever met him?" He said, "Oh, no, you know, so-and-so's over here in Poland, and so-and-so's in California, and whatever." They have no idea who these people really are. And they groom them. They start, you know, innocuous little conversations, and the next thing you know, as you said, Carolyn, you know, then they're sextortion. I'll send you, you know, I send you a picture, you send me a picture, and especially with young men, you know, that shame of having those pictures exposed. And, you know, not to that it's any less for young women, but it seems to be, you know, they target young men, and, you know, they kill themselves, as you said. So, you know, it is incumbent to point out what we can to people and to help educate people, and for them to become more aware, and for parents to certainly educate their children.
Well, and those type of, even through the gamers, you know, you'd think it was innocuous, I'm just playing a game. And there have been, you probably know, there have been several true crime stories where they have made friends and they got them to commit a murder. And, you know, some other horrible crimes that, you know, when they went to court, giving testimony, they almost couldn't believe themselves that they got to that stage, that they didn't say they didn't do it, but they just could not believe that I did this because this person reeled me in to the story, and I felt sorry for them for so long. So, you know, if you run into that, you know, it's good to let your parents know, or, you know, let somebody know, and not keep any of that a secret.
So one of the cases that we're covering is Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She groomed an autistic guy for 2 years to murder her mother. And then he murdered her mother, and you see him in the interrogation, and you can see, like, this guy was just, she groomed him so badly. He was in love with her. He thought she was being abused. It was all a lie. And he's in jail for in prison for the rest of his life. And she served 8.5 years because she got a plea deal because the prosecutor was up for election, and he thought her defense was going to be that her mother had Munchausen's by proxy, but she didn't have it. It's not even true. It's something they came up with, but he thought, okay, this is going to look bad for my election. And the investigators on the case were so upset because they said there was so much evidence of what she did to this guy, and she should be in prison for the rest of her life. And she's out as a social media influencer now. This is the craziest thing, and mainstream media doesn't even have the real information. So they're saying, like, she's a victim. Meanwhile, you know, this guy that's in prison for the rest of his life is the victim here that she groomed for 2 years to kill her mother. And this is like, it's like, what has gone wrong with the world? It's crazy. Yeah. So, you got to be careful, especially if you are a parent with a developmentally disabled youngster who may be spending a lot of time, you know, even he was like 26 years old. So, you know, he was spending a lot of time online, and this, you know, girl groomed him for 2 years. So you've really got to, even when they're young adults, can be...
Absolutely.
Right. You know, with anybody, with any teen, you know, you have to look at the dynamics of the ages, you know, who they're hanging around, or, you know, what they're doing. You know, if one's in college and the other one is 10 years older, that's an odd friendship, unless they were, you know, in the same college, or, you know, if there was something, but there usually isn't that kind of connection. So that, you know, there are red flags in there when people meet people.
And you go over all those red flags in their book. And this book, you have to get this book, because I tell you, I literally opened it up and I finished it. Well, I couldn't stop reading it because, and I've highlighted stuff in there and bookmarked it, and but it's so applicable to everything. And you have shopping safety tips and dating tips and just everything. I'm like, let me just see here what this is. Tell you
We
what's in this
took
book.
all of our personal and professional information that we have been through and wanted to condense it into that one book so that other people didn't have to understand violence the way that we do.
Right, and this is a great book to gift to your daughters. Christmas is coming, Hanukkah's coming. Well, gift this to your daughters, no matter what their age is. Okay, because this is a really good book. It says, designed for defensive living. Then you have victimization and trauma. Can you recognize a predator? Very interesting. Technology terror, persuasion proof, dating the wolf, just a domestic. Let's see. Financial security is key to your safety. Joy's survival blueprint. Shams, scams, and cons. Women and weapons. Call to freedom. Survival tips. Dating red flags, and then you have your acknowledgement, your endnotes, and about your authors. So this is just a fabulous book. I really do highly recommend you give this to your any women that you care about in your life. Whether they're your daughters, your nieces. It's amazing. It has just so much information in here to remember. And I think I want to put a little post-it on, don't open your window, because you can say that, but so we say a lot of things to ourselves, and then we do something stupid. Oh, that lady looked like, she really needed me. She was older, and it's all about our elders, right? So a lot of times, but you said these older people, they could be doing this stuff their whole lives, and they are older, but look at with the Golden State Killer, right? He tried to make himself even look older and more feeble, and then they caught him in the cell, cleaning everything and going up on stuff. So that's a tactic to look older and vulnerable, and I wouldn't hurt a fly, like the psycho thing.
Look at all the predators who, the well-known predators, the Bill Cosbys, the Harvey Weinsteins. When they go to court, they look as old and pathetic as they can. They come in their wheelchairs and their canes and everything, because they don't want to be seen as a predator. And we can take that lesson into real life, that they don't want to be seen as a predator. They want to be seen as this old, vulnerable, or just this vulnerable person. And the truth of the matter is, they're not the vulnerable person, they're the predator.
Right. And the last thing I want to say, because it's in the news, all this P. Diddy stuff and these people that got wrapped up in it, like, so Justin Bieber was a young and upcoming, his parents, gave him over because, it's a promise of fame and fortune and all of this. And look at this rapper's going to take you under his wing for 48 hours. What a great thing, they probably thought, this is amazing. What a break he's getting. But that is, so tempting, right? That's the temptation that's out there. How do you protect yourself and your kids from that if they're trying to get into, whether it's a sport or singing or some kind of a acting career, from those predators?
You have to have boundaries. And, if you need to be there and, say, I have to leave at 5, or, so-and-so's picking me up. No, I can't be out here, I'm underage.
Right. There was a famous actor, and I can't remember her name, but she said, the reason nothing ever happened to me as a child actor was because my mother never left my side. She was always there. She made movies. She was a successful actor. And she said, the predators could not get close to me because my mother made sure I was never alone. And, sometimes we talk about parents being too close to their kids. But, in those types of situations, is there really anything as being too close to your children? Because predators are attracted to that. There's Diddy, there's, Jeffrey Epstein, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, who seem to offer something. And, it goes back to, if something seems too good to be true, it really is. But, especially where children are concerned, because they're so vulnerable and they're so benevolent, and they just naturally trust everybody and everything. And I think it's incumbent upon us as adults, whether or not we're their parents, to watch out for them. If I am shopping and I see a child by themselves, I follow that child just to make sure they're okay until they get back to their family. And, I think that if more people did that and, just took a little bit of extra time, a little bit of extra caution to look out for children, it would go a long way.
Yeah.
Well, and these are the problems with teachers also. So, you have to instill in children, and this is something to talk about through their teen years, because it's not just 5-year-olds. It's their teen years that you're noticing a lot more younger teachers now that are assaulting children, and they're making a relationship out of it, and they don't see anything wrong with it. But this is the conversation that parents, other family members, aunts, uncles need to have with children. Teachers should never be that close. A coach should never be that close. You don't need to be alone with this person, out to dinner with this person. Are you constantly staying after school for some reason, going on a trip with this person? So, these are red flags that you should be talking to your parents with, and having that conversation. Nobody should be touching you. If that's even a conversation, let me know, and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, and it seems like, with all these cases coming out, and I had a man on our program. He wrote a book, and he was through tremendous abuse in his life and sexual abuse. Like, it was like 7 or 8 different times, and I said, oh my gosh, like these different people. And I said, this is like crazy that you went through that all in that short period of time. But with all of these cases, and it's like, you hear things, like some things in the news, I cover true crime, and there's certain things I won't even touch, because you can't even like imagine things that are done to 1-year-old children, and you're like, what is going on? Like, is this something that's always happened, or is this something that occurs with like money, where they think they can get anything, and then they want these young girls or young men? It's like, what's going on? Because like, now, like you said, there's teachers in the news, there's coaches in the news all the time now for this. What is this? This is like really scary stuff. It's not just isolated cases.
I don't know if it's, because it's on social media, and there's so many different porn sites out there, and, different ways, manipulation, but, there are a lot of cases of the boyfriend who, is assaulting the daughter, or,
like Madeline Soto's case, right? And then, and it even seems like the mother is compliant, knows
it
that,
does. 100%. I mean, she has said, and I really hope they don't give her a deal, because she pretty much let it go on. And has said that. And, she deserves to sit in a cell alongside him. That's a horrendous case.
Right. And it's just, it's so prevalent. And it's like, I don't know. And I think with, with teachers or these coaches that are the predators, kids naturally are taught to look up to those people, right? And maybe they don't have a father figure or a mother figure in their house. So, then it can be easily that this person is like showing them affection, and maybe with boys or whatever, they don't have a mother. So it's natural, oh, look, she's, being really nice to me, and vice versa for the father figures. And I think that's like their inroad.
Or even if they do, a lot of times these, teachers are, whether it's men, now it's men and women, so it's been a split of both, and they're young. So, it seems pretty cool maybe to the student that, hey, I got something going on with the teacher. Instead of somebody else saying, that's not a good thing. You shouldn't be having a relationship with the teacher. They're married, or that's not the right thing. But, kids, they keep it a secret until something bad happens, or
there's even children who don't know, because they haven't had the talk with their parents. They don't know what's happening to them. They don't know what's going on. And so when we talk about coaches, look at Simone Biles. She, as a child athlete, was subjected to terrible sexual abuse from Larry Nassar, as were so many of her teammates. But they didn't know to talk about it. They thought it was natural. They just thought that's the way it was, because nobody thought to talk to them about it and to tell them, that what was going on with them was abuse. And, it really takes its toll when they do realize what happens, because, they feel maybe there's something they could have done. But, certainly as children, there is nothing they could have done.
No.
And so that's why, it's important for kids to know that their family supports them unconditionally. And, Simone Biles, her parents were behind her 100%. She had a mental health crisis, in the Olympics, and then came back in the next Olympics and, won, almost a dozen gold medals. So, it's again incumbent upon all of us to keep children safe.
Yeah, and I wonder, if certain predators, they go into those types of things just because they have access, or does it, is it really that conscious that they're choosing that early on to be that coach, to be...
I'm sure they are choosing certain students because, maybe they're shy, or they know that they can easily be manipulated. So again, this falls on the teacher, the predator. So it's never the victim's fault, because they're being manipulated for so long. Yeah,
Look at Jerry Sandusky from Penn State.
Right.
How long he had a nonprofit helping young boys, at risk. And it was all just, for him to prey on.
Yeah, and then the Boy Scouts. I mean, it's like, it's really sad, because then it's like your kids could have a really great coach that really cares about them, and and we're becoming so jaded that it's like, you don't want to get to the point that you don't trust anyone's real interest, that there really are good people like that. But it gets scary, it really is. But you hear it's like all the time now, somebody this person took advantage. And just when I was in school, there was a gym teacher, and he used to have this, his eye used to wink, and he used to always say, "I'm not winking at you, I have a pinched nerve." And one time he wanted to, my friend and I were talking about, so, well, why don't you come to my office and I will talk about that with you. And I now, it felt weird, why he took such an interest in something that was going on with me and my 7th grade friend, okay, that, and it just felt weird, you say, trust your inner gut, okay, but sometimes my inner gut would be wrong on things. So I was like, okay, that feels weird. Years later, I found out he abused girls in our school.
Oh.
So I don't know whether he was just feeling us out, are you good candidates or whatever. Later on, when I was, it was a very high achiever, I pushed myself, so I was take all the advanced placement courses, and I had looked up to my advanced placement biology teacher very much. He was married, he was a nice guy, everybody really liked him. And And so he would like keep me after class, and we would go into this like this sounds so shady now, this supply closet, and he would just say like he would have the book open, and he would just tell, I love you to death, and he would say that to everyone, I love you to death. He would say that in class. But I used to tell my mother, I'm like, oh, Dr. So and so, yeah, he said I'm gonna like ace whatever test it was I was taking, and he said, because I wanted to go into a 6-year pre-med program. And I'm like, he said, I've got this, and and she goes, what do you mean? He says, I love you to death. Like, and I thought, oh, Mom, you're being ridiculous now. Like, okay, he says it to all of us. He says he loves us to death. Okay, flash forward to about 10 years after that, I caught up with somebody from my school, and he said to me, can you imagine that he was having relations with the students? So I don't know whether I'm just like, it was like, okay, this one, she's not it's not passing the test or whatever, like she's not catching on, because I was naive, like I just truly believed like they really wanted to help and they really wanted to see me succeed, and maybe somebody else would be more forthcoming, I don't know. So I escaped those, but both times, they ended up then getting in trouble for that stuff. So yeah, it's scary. We have to really, as parents, make our kids aware if something feels uncomfortable.
And come forward, with that, because, a lot of times the parents will, take that info and, no, maybe it's not. You know what? You heard it, they told you, or you saw text on their phone, which, go through, look at that. And, that's a time to get in the car and you need to talk to the principal.
Right.
And if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. And again, it's the teacher, and it's what should happen at school, and the punishment that the teacher gets. You lose your job, you're going to get arrested. I mean, they know what the penalties are going to be. So, and they're pushing the nickel, hoping, shh, don't say anything, but you need to get them out of the school.
Yeah, and I think that it still goes to the point that what if I'm wrong, right? You always have that, like, what if I'm wrong? And I've said that, but now it's like, if it's feeling that we have to just give ourselves permission to, all you're telling him is look into something, right? Just
That's
look
exactly
into it.
Right. You're putting it out there, so even if they have a conversation with the principal, or they decide to bring in the teacher, at least you're bringing it out and you're saying, you made so-and-so feel uncomfortable, with just the two of you after class. Why was that? Everybody else went home, what happened there? So they have to put it out there and make an excuse for it, and let the principal and the school know what this was going on. We didn't know you'd do that. Okay. And you're advocating for safety for children and your child.
Yeah, and I think it's all our different cultures. Like, I guess, like, we all grew up where if you worked, there were jokes told, like when we were working right in the workforce. So did you ever have like that today? Oh my gosh, if anybody ever did that today in an office, somebody would be running down to HR and say sexual harassment and everything. So things have really changed. And some people still have that old way of thinking that, oh, it's just a joke, it was this, it was that, it really wasn't something, because we were conditioned like that, especially as women, right? We accepted a lot of things that today are absolutely a no-go, right? In an office setting, in all of that. I mean, I could tell story after story of things that were done. I tell my daughter, and my daughter laughs, because my daughter would be, I was like, you'd be at HR 100%, right? And just say, and she goes, yeah. And I said, that was like the norm back then, that guys would say that or do that kind of stuff, and it's crazy, but we have to get out of that mindset that's okay. It just was accepted for so long, right? That we just
and not be afraid to speak up.
Right.
And like you said, we second guess ourselves as women oftentimes. What if I'm wrong? Well, you know what if you aren't wrong?
Right.
You know, how many women have been before us and how many women will there be after? Because a predator just isn't a one-off. You know, a predator does this over and over and over again. Quite truthfully, they're a skilled hunter.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it is,
so
you know,
for us
and
to speak up, I mean, how many women did it take to speak up to bring Harvey Weinstein down? And actually, it was Ronan Farrow writing, you know, for the New Yorker that brought him down, because nobody would listen to the women. But we have to speak up, and we have to tell our truth. And, you know, that way we can change the world for our daughters.
yeah, and I tell you, like,
And
you
sons.
can be haunted by stuff, like you say, you know where I live. Okay, so in that town, a long time ago, probably in the early 90s, and me being pretty young, I think I just had my daughter at the time, and my husband and I had a restaurant there. And there was a man that came in, and he would come in late at night, and he would eat, and he would talk about his kid in the car. Now, I went out and I looked, and I saw this little boy. He was like sleeping in the hatchback area of, like, you know, one of those cars that had that glass hatchback back then. And he would talk about his son. Well, he came in a couple of times, and I started to get a really bad feeling about him. And I said to my husband, I said, there's something with that. The next time he comes in, I'm going to get his license plate. I'm calling the police. He never came in again, because I think that last time he came in, he got some kind of vibe from me that I was curious. I think I had asked him a couple of questions about the boy in the car. It haunts me to this day that who was that little boy in that car, because this guy was older, okay? Didn't look like that was his little boy. It haunts me to this day that I could have saved that little boy, and I didn't, you know, think that, oh gosh, let me go get that, let me call the police, because it was this thing, well, what if I'm wrong? Like, what if this is just an innocent thing? And as soon as I guess I must have asked him a couple of questions and he got a vibe, never ever saw him again. And so I tell you, if you feel something, you know, say, if you do see something, say something, or if you feel something's off, just say something, because I am haunted by that, of who that was.
And I handled plenty of calls working like that, where people would give me the backstory, you know, real quick, you know, kind of like you in different situations, and say, I don't want to cause a problem. I don't know if this is, but can you just check that guy out? Okay. You know, let me ask him some questions. Let me see an ID, you know, something that, you know, made this person feel uncomfortable wherever they are, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know, whether it's somebody coming to your house, wherever you are, you know, you call the police, they can come out, you know, it doesn't have to be 911, but it depends, you know, how long you think the person's going to be there. Maybe it should be 911. I think the person might leave. You might want to check this guy out. Okay, that's all you have to say. You don't need to know anything more. You don't need a whole background. It's not your job to solve the case. You could just call the police and say, I don't know about this person. They're odd, something, they're following me, whatever it is. You know, the police might be right around the corner, and, you know, you'd kick yourself for something else. I should have called right then.
Really, I constantly, it's been years and years and years, and this, whoever that little boy is, it was probably in his late 40s or something, and I still, you know, feel awful, because
maybe the police came, you know, maybe they caught up to him. That's how I would like to
it's
maybe
horrible.
they caught up to that guy at the next spot that he was at, you know.
Right. So as bad as you feel that maybe you might be wrong, you're going to feel so much worse that maybe you might be right and didn't do something. So just say it, you know, it's just let them know. But it was so much, so informative talking to you guys, and such a great thing. And I hope you can come on again sometime.
Absolutely.
This was great. And I have your link to your book on the top of our chat. Everybody's talking about it in the chat. We get a lot of people that rewatch later. I have the link in the video description. And so, Street Smart Safety for Women, your guide to defensive living. Do you have something anything else you want to tell us before we go, or something
You can look us up on our website, streetsmartsafety.org.
Oh, I'll put that in
And-
there too. Okay.
We are developing a new book too.
Oh, good.
So,
Then you're definitely coming back.
right. Thanks so much.
Love
Lynn.
to.
It
Thank
was
you.
Yes.
So great chatting with you.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you for
Bye
having me.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. And let me see. And meeting for all. And everybody that watched, that was so informative. We went over the time, and I think it is. Oh, look at that. That's 3:33 when we ended it. Isn't that beautiful? 3:33. Love you guys. God bless. I hope that you get something out of this. Check this book out. It really is a lifesaver. I will talk to you later on today. Everybody take care. Bye bye.